I am an archivist of dreams, a cracked detector bleeping over settled graves. My mode is distraction. I am the headless lady of the house, the shaking seismograph of unimagined spring. My feel is dismemberment. I am the dowser with a rusty Y, the greenback geode trapped in pressured silt below. My way is astringency. O golden archivist of dreams, remember me. O mother of my children, join me now. O divining eye, buy me back. And of course, buying back is the literal meaning of the word, the title word, redemption. Because I think that was Christ having to do things in order to, I don't know, I'm a long way from my Catholic theology. But redemption is a buying back, isn't it? So, when you can redeem a loan, still, I mean, it's still a word, isn't it, in English? Yes. Yeah. Anyhow, that's sense.
It. That's
yes.
wonderful. Yeah. Buying back. Okay. All right.
Your choices now.
Okay. See, one I wanted to hear was the disbudding iron.
Ooh. You go for the bloody ones then, yes.
There are quite a lot of bloody ones.
I know, I know. That's one of my sort of obsessions, really. What page is it on?
It's on page 11.
This comes from my time being pretending to be a farmer in Scotland, and my older daughter, who was 6 when we left, she can still remember some of these scenes. She was the tiny chestnut of a pair, this nanny kid. Her bully brother haunched at birth for mounting. He grew horns, but she, to be a good herd sister, must not head up so. I held her tight, her weak old bundle of sticks pulsing her pint of blood in rapid fear. There are no nerves, he said, not here on the skull's hard top. On the flame-set iron the colours ran with heat. He soldered then in the longest moment those horn buds to her brain, welded sprout to root. You two, shut out for the act, smelt the pain and the branding stench. And we joked, didn't we, when you saw, as you had to, those huge raw circles on her brow. Sanda has snails, red snails on her head. Sanda's a snail goat now. Sanda. She was called Sanda Tangerine. That was her full name. Because we said to our daughters, look, we've got these goat kids and you can give them their names. And so her full name was Sanda Tangerine. But oh, those were extraordinary days, really, playing at being farmers, because we didn't know what we were doing. And I come from a farming family. My mother and all my uncles were horrified, really, when they heard that my then husband and I were being farmers up in Scotland. They said, but they don't know what they're doing. They were right.
Was Fat Hen written about that time as well?
What, can you give me the page number?
That's on page 14.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness me.
Were you still in the farm then, or were you in Leicester at that point when you wrote this?
I think we weren't, no, because we left when, yes, I'm trying to remember where we were.
The
And what
garden you were describing.
yes, I don't know. But my poem should help me to remember.
Yeah, this is one of my favourites.
Oh, thank you, Will. Do you want the epigraph?
Yeah. When you read it and the title as well.
Fat hen. And of course fat hen is a weed. Do you know that it's the name of a weed? Fat hen. So, you ask me to plough the ground. Shall I take a knife and tear my mother's bosom? You ask me to cut the grass and make hay and sell it and be rich like white men. But how dare I cut my mother's hair? Smohala, a 19th century Native American. Today, when I went out to garden, the bare soil of my small clearing distressed me. That earth is distressed. I have scraped it and shaken it by the shoulders. What, letting in goosegrass again? I've warned it, how many times, not to cradle weeds. It doesn't learn. Our daughter, even at 10, would follow me in the furrows to pick up the wounded. Her field hospital, a row of plastic pots where they lingered, astonished exotics. Chickweed, dandelion, horsetail. For years since, I've persisted in wringing their necks in the abattoir of my weeding, taken a blade that is not the blade of harvest and run them through. Weeds fall with no sound or struggle, not like the old lair whose head came off in your hand. She staggered about the yard over and over, dragging her whites in the jugular spangles of red. Today I walked back to the house that you have left. Between grasses I have long since ceased to mow, and I wished I could sweep, like a Buddhist, the path before me, lest my feet in falling should crush any creature. Woo! I've realised, of course, that this was after our husband had abandoned us. Because he left the three of us when my daughters were 5 and 3, I think, yes. And we were well shot of him, to be honest. But he was sort of, he's never been in touch with me since he left, and I don't, my daughters occasionally do meet up with him, but it's extraordinary, really. The wreckage of our marriage gave me a huge impulse to write, which I'm sort of grateful to him for.
Yeah.
And it gave me a freedom to write. That was very important. I could write what I wanted.
Maybe the poem that follows on from this is on page 16 by Anthony.
Oh, by Anthony Crucis.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Golly, it's him again, isn't it?
Yeah. This poem is an incredible. Incredible.
It's Anthony Crucis is a little. I can't remember what it is, but it's quite it's a sort of a little church somewhere. I don't know why I called it that now. I can't remember. Anyhow, by Anthony Crucis. The day you decided to walk out of our lives, or rather to drive out and call back later with a transit van for your things. The day you walked over a stone bridge and down to a river meadow with me beside you, one flesh still, but only for about 200 or so more hours, it was really the ghost of your father you were taking by the elbow. Your father with that fluid about his heart, his chest cavity filling, and the doctors drawing it off hopelessly with great hollow needles. Your father calling for plums in late November, 20 years before, when out-of-season fruit was still a wonder, and you'd found some round and crimson from California down in the city market after school. And that evening he had been too ill to know. His heart and the cavity round his heart too full now for plums, even the idea of plums. You were walking with me under the willows near Ampney, but I was already gone from your knowing. I, the Samaritan listener to whom you repeated, I never knew my father as a man myself. I was only 16, on the verge of it, but I never knew him except as a child. I never knew my father. God, that's an extraordinary. Oh, I thought it didn't end there. Goes on. I thought it did, but we sat down side by side on the bank of that river, and now I was sure you'd leave us, move in with your lover. Our daughters, on the verge of becoming women, would lose their father. Perhaps one day they would know you, at 18 or 28, grown up anyway. You might not, like him, be dead.
It's
Gosh, it's a powerful poem, isn't it?
yeah.
I'm scared by myself.
What's amazing about it is it's so incredibly empathetic but brutal. It's kind of brutally.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Yes.
like brutally
I
empathy.
take that as a big compliment, Will. Yes, I think that's what I try to do with my poetry, to be empathetic but brutal. So thank you. Ooh.
Actually, maybe the next one to read, page 44.
Oh,
I really love
the one
this
from
one.
Maeve McGuckian.
I love.
Oh, I love this one too. And
I think it's
got
amazing.
such wonderful memories of milking.
Yeah, and the description again of the body, but this feels like a different, like a more
Yeah.
positive.
And it's quite funny too, isn't it? My breasts were as hard to grip as Halloween apples. For Maeve McGuckian, she was a great pal and co-poet with me. Oh, she's wonderful. I don't know if she's still alive even, Maeve McGuckian. She's a Northern Irish poet, yes.
She is.
Let down for Maeve McGuckian. When my milk came in, no, not my milk, the child's. Well, whose? Can I say clearly? Though I did taste it once, a thin hazelnut water. Well, when it came in, it stood blue-veined in my breasts, and I could not express it. My breasts were as hard to grip as Halloween apples, the ones you hang on strings from a clothes era hauled to the ceiling and try to bite. I don't know whether anybody does that these days. Other people even have clothes errors. Oh, my breasts were as hard as Bramley's, and my nipples tender as a cut. The child could not catch on. How would she, the scrap? And she wept, and the other babies around me wept, for the milk I had and to spare, but could not express. When I no longer could lay my arms by my sides, and the midwife was threatening a drug to suppress lactation. It came to me, the dark shed and Rathmullen, and the child I was that summer, pressing all the left side and ear of her head against the leathern flank of the cow, pulling, learning the rhythm, the teat music as the milk jet jangled onto galvanized metal or drove richly into the foam of itself. That double note, the sound of relief, the nee-naw rhythm of rescue. The child that was me couldn't, of course, get the hang. But the mother I suddenly am hears the pitch of percussion deepen as the bucket fills, its long diminuendo. My shirt front's ringing, and when I unfasten my bra, 2 jets of milk rise in 2 crossing arcs right over the head of my nuzzling, wavery child. Well, thank you for asking me to do that one, Will. It's lovely to revisit that one in particular. It's a joyous one, and to remember, I don't know even if she's still alive, but to remember the good days I spent with my fellow poet Maeve McGuckian. Yes.
Why is that poem in particular for Maeve?
Why is it dedicated to Maeve? I don't know. That's a good question.
Were you friends when you were a mum?
I can't remember, but I just knew that it was very appropriate. All I can remember is it was very appropriate for her, and I sent her a copy of it, of course, as soon as I got it finished and ready. So I sent her a typescript of it. Yes, but I'm afraid I can't remember.
Yeah,
It's an awful downside, really. I was hoping that some of my longer term memory would survive for longer. It's my really short term memory that's the worst affected, but I was hoping that some more of my long-term memory might be revived by reading my poems, but I'm afraid I've lost the reason why I dedicated that to dear Maeve.
But do you remember what it describes? Do you remember that
Oh, I
period of your
do
time?
remember that. Yes, it's bringing that back to me very much. Yes. And that's the whole point with poems, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, selfishly, you know, that they're all I've got of myself in certain respects.